Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer deck tech, and today we're going to be talking about Selesnya horses. I'm very excited to bring this list to you. As always, at the end of the video, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the deck? Is there a card that I definitely should have included that I did not? Or do you have suggestions for upcoming videos? Just let me know in the comment section. Alright, Selesnya horses. So, I've been tossing this deck around for quite some time. Mostly the reason being, okay, what kind of horse deck do I want to build? Do I want to build like a deck with just like a bunch of horses and just like make it work? Or do I want to build a more synergistic version that's, not playing quite as many horses, but still has a lot of synergy? And ultimately, I decided on the latter. I wanted a good deck that's going to have some synergy, but also have some really, really cool horses. So, unsurprisingly, there's one horse card that pretty much stands above the rest in terms of Pioneer, and that card is Crested Sunmare. This card is absolutely incredible. Gives our other horses indestructible, which by itself is nothing too crazy, but at the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, create a 5/5 white horse creature token. That's just any life. For instance, like the Angel deck, they need at least like 5 life to be able to start popping off. Not us. We just have to gain life in general, and that's why I really, really like Crested Sunmare. So, what other horses are we actually playing in this deck? So, again, a little sad, but we're only playing 8 other horses specifically. So, obviously, we got the thumbnail there. We're playing 4 Diamond Mare and 4 Shield Mare. So, Diamond Mare I still do like in this deck. Although it's not an ETB with gaining the life, it's whenever you cast a spell, which can arguably, potentially be better if our opponent's countering our spells, we're at least gaining the life, which could trigger other cards in the deck. So, I really, really do like the Diamond Mare. Most of the time, you're going to be wanting to name white with this. There's only like 2 cards in the entire main deck that are not white spells because they're just green. Obviously, we got Tristani on the end there, but that one's white, so we can name white, no problem, and they'll still trigger it. We're also playing the 4 Shield Mare. Red mages, beware of our Shield Mares. Obviously, when it enters or becomes a target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, you gain 3 life, and it can't be blocked by red creatures, so darn those red creatures, I suppose. But I really do like Shield Mare. It enters, we gain the life. Whenever it's targeted, we gain some life. It's just a pretty good card for our horse deck overall. And then although Tristani is not a horse, I wanted to include it in this section just because, it is the second largest creature in the deck behind the Crested Sunmare, but I really do like Tristani. Obviously it's got the big body. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, which is pretty sweet. Then we can tap 3 and tap it to populate, which is really, really good, especially with our Crested Sunmare tokens, which is pretty sweet. It's also a good curve too, where we go like Tristani, and then we go Crested Sunmare, boom, we're going to gain 5. And then we're going to go to end step. We're going to make a horse token. Tristani's going to gain us another 5. Like, that's huge. Against aggro decks, they're pretty much just dead at that point. I mean, we just gained 10 life in one turn, which is pretty sweet. So, I definitely like Tristani in this deck. I've wanted to feature it for a long time. Couldn't find the right deck, but I think that this is a fantastic deck for Tristani. So, okay. So, we got our horses, we got Tristani, we got our Crested Sunmare. What else are we actually doing in this deck? So, our next slide here is some of our mana accelerants. We're playing 4 Llanowar Elves and 4 Elvish Mystic. Obviously, we got to get those horses out there on time, and these cards are the easiest way to be able to do that. We're also playing the Prosperous Innkeeper. Not only is it a ramp spell for us, but it synergizes with the deck. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, you gain a life. It's a really, really good card for this deck. So, definitely a huge fan of the Prosperous Innkeeper. All right, next slide here is essentially just our payoffs for playing all of these different life gain cards. Because obviously we got the Crested Sunmare. What are we doing with this life? This is what we're doing with the life. We're playing 4 Voice of the Blessed and 3 Trelasara. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but I think I nailed it this time. But obviously, gaining the life, getting counters, getting all these additional abilities is sweet. So definitely a huge fan of Voice of the Blessed and Trelasara. Then we're also playing 3 Skyclave Apparition. We obviously need some removal of some variety, and I decided to just play the Skyclave just because, it's a creature. We gain some life, which helps us be able to do other things in our deck. And Skyclave does a pretty good job at taking care of most problematic things in the format, which is pretty nice. So definitely a huge fan of the Skyclave Apparition. So that's the entire main board. That's really all it is. We're playing a ton of different 4-ofs, so we kind of just sped through it for the most part. But let's go ahead and hop into the lands real quick, which is a relatively simple mana base. So we're playing 4 Razorverge Thicket, 4 Temple Garden, and 4 Brushland as our main dual lands in the deck. We're also playing 4 Branch Loft Pathway, 2 Overgrown Farmland, and 2 Mutavault. So Mutavault is really just kind of in there just because it's a good man land, but it's also really funny because with Crested Sunmare, it is an indestructible Mutavault, which is kind of funny. I had to mention that, so it's definitely a little silly there. And then rounding out our lands, we're playing 1 Aganjo, 1 Boseiju as our pretty much free channel lands. They're fantastic, not 100% necessary for the deck, but if you have them laying around, I highly suggest playing them. And then we're also playing 2 basic plains. We're not playing a forest just because most of the spells in our deck are white. Obviously we got plenty of dual lands there, so I didn't bother to put in a forest in this deck. But as our spicy basic land of the day, I decided to choose this really nice plains from Arch Enemy. The art is done by Fred Fields. I really like this art because I wanted to, for those who haven't been following the channel for a long time, whenever I build like a creature type matters deck, I try to find a basic that really suits it, like where you would find those creatures at potentially, regardless of the plane. And I mean, look at that plains. Clearly you got like the barns in the background there. I could definitely see some horses hanging around those barns. So that's why I decided to pick this specific plains, which I really do like the artwork for this one. So, all right, that takes us to the end of the main deck here, but we still have to talk about our sideboard as well as some budget options. So sideboarding is really simple for this deck. We're going to want some Graveyard Hate. We're in white. We're going to play Rest in Peace. End of story. Rest in Peace is fantastic. We're also going to want some copies of Get Lost. So one thing that's important with this deck, and we got to keep this in mind, most of the decks that we build here on the channel, we're just, we're aggroing or we're doing a specific thing and we just kind of do our thing. But what's really important with this deck is our opponent's going to be bringing in cards that are going to disrupt us. They're going to bring in all of their anti-life gain. They're going to bring in their Ferocidons. They're going to bring in, what else is there? Like their Roiling Vortexes. Anything that stops us from gaining life, like, what is it? The Menace Knight from Dominaria United. They're going to be bringing in Knight of Dust Shadow. I believe that's the name of it. They're bringing in a bunch of cards to not let us gain life. So it's really important that we think about that. So that's why we want to bring in some extra removal. So that way we can keep their Ferocidons off the battlefield so we can actually gain life. Really, really important. We're also going to want some Vampire Hate. Rakdos Vampires is everywhere right now in the format. I personally am playing Pithing Needles to help name like Sorin, but you could also name like Reflections of Kiki-Jiki, but I also am playing Pick Your Poison. It's the best answer for vampires right now. I also threw Damping Sphere in there just because Lotus Field, it seems like it's making a little bit of a comeback, and it's really, really good against them. So definitely just make sure you're packing a few Damping Spheres. It's also pretty good against the Nykthos decks, if you still happen to run in those. I know I do see those still, even though Karn has been banned for a little while now. So just really, really important. All right. Then the last thing we have to talk about is the the budget options for this deck. So what if we're trying to, save a little bit of money? We're not trying to spend a crazy amount of money. What could we do to cut costs on this a little bit? Really, the only thing is just playing budget dual lands. That's really the only thing you can do. I mean, you cut the budget dual lands, and that's it. The most expensive card in the deck is the Crested Sunmares. They go for about $750 a piece, which, I mean, definitely isn't like cheap, but that's not like crazy expensive for the most part. You could swap the Voice of the Blessed. It's about $10 for a playset of them. You could just swap in a Johnny's Pridemate. A Johnny's Pridemate is strictly worse than Voice of the Blessed. But, if you're looking to, cut costs a little bit, that's a pretty good way to go. The last thing I want to mention is this deck, as it's currently constructed, is only $227 US, which is incredibly cheap. The budget version, though, I got it down to 90. Again, all I did was I started playing some budget dual lands, so I cut like the Aganjo, I cut the Sekenzen, or not the Sekenzen, the Boseiju, I cut the Mutavaults, I took out the Temple Gardens, and I really just put in some budget dual lands. That's all I did, and we really get it down to 90 US. So again, I always talk about, kind of what type of person would want to play a deck like this? So if you like horses, if you like silly creature type matters decks, if you like life gain decks, I think this would be a sweet deck for you. Heck, even if you like playing some, some somewhat bigger creatures, or you just want to mix things up at F&M, maybe get a new deck for a friend or anything like that, I think this would be a perfect deck for you. And let me know in the comment section below if you either A, play a deck like this, or B, do end up building this list. Just let me know in the comment section. I want to know what you think. So that takes us to the end of the video here. Thanks so much for watching this video. The deck lists are in the description below if you'd like to check it out. I have the regular list with the sideboard, as well as the budget list with the sideboard in the description if you want to check those out. Huge shout out to our channel members, Ralph, Matt, Arcadius, Ray, Gary, and Sarwanoki. If you are interested in being a channel member, it's only $1 US a month. You get access to the exclusive Commander Crane Discord, as well as other features here on the channel. So I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.